So, ladies and gentlemen, you are welcome to part three of our advanced costing techniques. Right now, you remember in part one, we focused on doing ABC. All right. In part two, we did throughput accounting. And in part three, we are looking at target cost. Target cost. All right. But what is target costing all about? It's a very simple idea. Because before we came to the advanced costing techniques, we dealt with traditional costing techniques. And that one too was about four of them, right? Where we did marginal and absorption costing, process costing, batch costing, service costing, and all those things. Now, what you see in there is that in the traditional costing method, cost of a product was determined by direct material, direct labor, and overheads, production overheads. And when we put this thing together, we have our production cost, right? Now, with this, when we add our profit element to it, so our profit element to it, we will get this, and you get our selling price. Is that not it? So in the first video, if you look at the cost card, that's how it was. So you could clearly see that pricing of a product is internal, is from internal source, because the data that we used to derive our cost was coming from how many labor we have used, all right, and material and overheads we have used. So selling price actually was dependent on these costs. That is what the traditional costing system looked at. But target costing takes it a little bit different. So it says that it is a strategic costing method that focuses on designing products or services to meet customers' needs at a price that ensures profitability while maintaining or improving quality. What do we mean? Now, the danger for using this external source is that it lacks motivation. And I'm going to explain what I mean by that, because what it meant was that people don't really care, and I've worked in petroleum sector before. What they feel is that they don't really care. The dollar rate will drive the fuel price, so they will add all their costs and the dollar effect of it, and also add their profitability and sell it. That's what they were doing. But you see, what it happens is that if that cost method has a deficiency, then it means that it also affects your pricing. So if there is any mistake in your cost build-up, any misinformation, let's say you bought something at 2 cedis, and by misinformation, somebody makes a mistake and book it at 3 cedis, then it means that it is going to affect your cost build-up here, and you will calculate your profit on it, and you do this. It doesn't really take the customer into perspective. What it does is that it is looking at the cost we have incurred, we add our own profit, and we are done. Basically, that is what that thing is about. But in target costing, we are saying that you should focus on the customer. Now, how much does the customer buy that same product elsewhere? Now, if we can get the expected selling price, I mean, what the customer really expect to buy the thing at, if we can get that price, then we are going to do reverse engineering and take away our profit margin, because we will determine our profit margin from it. And we will arrive at the cost. Now, when we get this cost, that is how we are going to negotiate for our direct material, negotiate for our direct labor and our overheads, so that we can meet this cost. Do you get it? But if by any means you exceed this cost, then it means that there is a cost gap. So if your internal cost becomes greater than this expected cost or estimated cost, then it means there is a cost gap, which means that there was an overspending. Now, you see that if we are able to know our cost before we produce, then we will manage ourselves to negotiate for the things when we are producing. That is the perspective that the target costing is taking things from. So the target cost look at the customer in perspective. So it is customer focus. All right. It begins from identifying the customer's value in the product or the service in determining the price. So we want to know how much customer will pay. If we know how much the customer will pay, we get our profit out of it. Then we know our cost before we start the production. Not do the production, add our profit element, then determine selling price. So have you seen that? So you see, it is customer focused, and you are going to use data-driven information, all right, to work back the desired cost. So that is what you see here. That is the principle. All right. Then you do cost control. So that is what we are doing so that you get what we call the cost gap or not. All right. So that is that. But if you underspend, that is not a cost gap. That is even more good news. Is that not it? All right. So basically, that is that. So because of that, there will be interdisciplinary collaboration with you and other people just to make sure finance, procurement, engineering, everybody, just to make sure that you are pricing your thing well. So, for example, now when I was coming, I think the fuel price has gotten to 16 now. 16. But for all you know, let's say the production cost is 15 and they put a profit of 1 CD per liter on it to arrive at this 16. But hold on, come to the market, ask people, okay, how much do you want to buy fuel for? Okay, we want to buy, we would want to buy the fuel at say 14. Okay, if you want to buy the fuel at 14, that's no problem. How much will be our profit element in this 14? Let's get it. We get our profit element. Let's say profit element is, let's say, 1 out of that. Then it means that we should produce the thing at 13 rather than the 15. Now, if we want to produce this thing at 13, then it means that when we are storing our product with somebody, we will negotiate for a discount. I mean, it will force us to work our cost side. Are you getting it? But if by any means our cost now gets to, let's say, 15, then there's a cost gap of 12. That is basically what target costing is all about. So what do we do in target costing? So we have to first determine our selling price, determine the target selling price based on market research or customers' expectation. Then set our profit target, all right? So we set our profit target. Then the targeted selling price that you had minus your profit margin will give you the target cost. It's very, very simple. Then you design your cost to compare with the target cost. And if there is any cost gap, you will see. So it will make you do controlling and also monitor the things that are in your office. All right. So how do you close the cost gap? These are some of the ways you can close the cost gap. You can reduce the number of the costs, all right, how much you spend on certain things. You can also ask for discounts, reduce production complexities, all right, improve efficiency in your workforce and that. Now, like I always told you, for everything that we do, make sure you learn the public sector perspective of it because that is the order of the day. All right. So while traditionally associated with the private enterprises target cost principles are gaining relevance in the public sector because in the public sector you look at the people before you do what you want to do. Okay, so basically that is that. So it helps us to know our budget constraints, all right, and also do proper service delivery optimization. And I've given so many examples here, all right, so you can just take a look at them, policy implementation and everything, all right. So that is that. It's a nice research area, is that not it? Target costing. All right. So basically that is that. Of course, these are the advantages, benefits of doing that. Focus, the fact that it is customer based is the key, because you see, and please, you need to understand this, because very soon you'll be doing corporate case study, and these are some of the things you will have to talk about. So you really need to understand what target costing is. All right, and of course there are challenges, so look at the challenges. All right, so the practical examples of target costing in the public sector, we are, let's say, a transportation service system. All right, so the government should conduct a survey to see how much citizens are willing to pay for a transport, determine its profit element on it. All right, and now when you subtract to get your desired cost, work your way around the cost to meet the needs of the people. We are going to look at an example. It is really a very simple thing, but because it is a very short thing, the examiner likes to add certain things towards it. For example, the examiner would like to bring in something of loss in production, or let's say wastage adjustment. The examiner would love to bring certain things into the exams. So it will be a combination of things you have learned before. Now, in this one, what you are going to do is that you are going to multiply the quantity by price. All right, then of course you are going to gross it up, and so you do whatever it is, 100% minus the percentage of the loss, so that you can gross up. All right, then again you are likely to get issues of something like idle time, so adjustment on idle time, and all these things come from earlier videos that we have learned. Labor accounting, idle time, that one too is simple. So you need the hours. All right, multiply by the rate per hour, then also you gross it up 100% minus the percentage of idle time. Percentage of idle time. Now, the third thing that the examiner can bring in are issues of the learning curve, which is used to price labor. All right. So remember, we've done learning curve. You have to look at that video, a very short one. So you will see this kind of formula there. All right, we use this one to determine the cost of labor. And again, the examiner can decide to bring in issues of overheads, where it talks about a semi-variable overhead. And in this case, that means that you will have to, of course, they will talk about it for more than one period. More than one period. They will give you the information for these things for more than one period. And obviously, if you have something to segregate between a fixed and a variable, you remember what we do? Yes, we use the high-low method. Is that not it? So you'll be doing your high-low method. Now, the high-low method will help you to segregate between the variable cost, which is usually a costing method of marginal, and the fixed cost, all right, which is usually that of an absorption, right? Is that not it? All right, so basically that is that. So you may have these things to do, easy peasy, and that is it. There's nothing dangerous about target costing, not at all. So you will have to, use the information that you have to go about this. But you see, first thing first, you have to determine the target selling price, right? You have to determine the profit margin to subtract to get your cost. Then you'll be comparing it with your internal cost builder to check for any cost gaps. Then you talk about how you may even close the cost gap. All right, so let's look at this illustration to deal with that. Now, it says that a selling price of 44 has been set in order to compete with a similar radio on the market that has comparable features with to Sheila Limited's intended product. The board has also agreed that the acceptable margin after allowing for all production costs should be 20%. Now, you see what this information is giving you. So we said that, let's say Sheila Limited. What did we say we do? We need to find the estimated cost, right? All right. So by using So the target selling price in the market using market information, all right, is given to us at 44. And the entity expects their target profit margin to be 20% of that. So 20% of 44 will give us how much? 20.2 by 44. That gives something like 8.8. So 8.8. That tells you that the target cost, all right, per unit minus 44 is 35.2. 35.2. That's the target cost. All right. So the next thing to do is to find out what the actual cost is going to be, your internal cost. All right. So what your internal cost is going to be. So the next thing for you to do in there is to calculate that aspect of your internal cost. How are you going to go about that? This person to it. Let me attend to this message quickly. All right. So how your own, if you are producing, how much will it be? Your expected current cost. Currently, what is your cost? And we need to work for that. So we need to go and work for that, given the informations that we are giving. So we have this information. Okay. Then, so if we are producing a new radio, these are what we will do. So let me separate them. Okay. So if we are producing, so we are going to do a workings on this so that we can get, if there is a cost gap, we will find out. But how do we deal with this? So let's see. If we are going to produce, we will need component one. According to the question, we will need component one. And how much are we going to incur from component one? I said this component one are circuit boards, and they are brought in and cost 4.1 each. So we are talking about circuit board, which will be coming in at 4.10. And it says that they are bought in or brought in. They are bought in batches. Sorry, they are bought in batches of 4,000, and additional costs are 2,400 per batch. So how much will be one? So that is carriage inwards, right? So carriage inwards, if you are bringing it in. Don't forget, cost includes any other cost incurred in bringing the asset to its useful state. So it's 4,000 per batch of 2,400 per batch of 400. So how much would that be? 2,400 per batch of 4,000. That is 0.6. So we have 0.6. So it means that this component alone will be 4.70. That is component one. That is how much it is going to cost. Again, not only that, they said there is another component. So let's adjust these things well. He says that wiring. In an ideal situation, 2.25 centimeter of wiring is needed for each completed radio. However, there are some waste. You remember the thing we talked about, wastage. Wastage in the process, as the wire occasionally cut to the wrong length or damage in the assembling process. Sheila estimates that 2% of the wire is lost in the assembly. Wire costs 0.5 per meter to buy. Then there is other material also for us to look at it, which is other material cost is 8.1 per radio. But let's deal with component 2. Component 2. But I want you to watch it. I saw something, yeah, 0.5 per meter, but they told us centimeter. This takes you back to JHS. How do you compare centimeter to meter? 100 centimeters will make 1 meter. So take note of that. These things are things we learned very, very, very long in the old days. So we are talking about wiring. And we said that we need to calculate the wastage. So do you remember the formula that we just learned in terms of the idle adjustment? So the quantity multiplied by the price. Interesting. The price, not the price. The price and 100% minus the loss. All right, we divide by 100% minus the loss. So you have in here that is 25 centimeters. Since we are giving 0.5 per meter, we need to divide it by 100 so that we can multiply it by our 0.5. That is the numerator. All divided by 100 minus this, so that will be 98%. 98%. So we need to work that one out and get our pricing. So what would that be if I now do 25 over 100 multiplied by 0.5 or divided by 0.98? That gives me 0.128. So 0.128. So let me say 0.13. All right, so that is that. That is that. The other material cost is 8.1 per radio, but we are now calculating our radio. So take note of that. So we will bring it in other material cost per radio is other material cost per one is 8.10. So that is what we need. And it says that assembling labor, these are skilled. So we have another one. Let me separate these things so that the question, yeah. Okay, the space is very big. So let me remove the spacing, give this thing. Oh, this is fine. All right, so we have done this, and it says that assembly labor, these are skilled labor, skilled people who are difficult to recruit. Sheila has, so let me add this one too. The Sheila Limited has more staff on this type than needed, but is prepared to carry out extra cost in return for security it gives the business. It takes 30 minutes to assemble a radio, and it's also to assemble a radio, and the assembly workers are paid 12 points. So it's going to take 30 minutes, but the figure there is 12.6 per hour. Take note of that. And it says that it is estimated that 10% of the hours paid to the assembly workers are for idle time. So you saw the adjustment that we also introduced you per that. So idle time adjustment. So we need to gross it to know how much the labor cost assembly labor is actually going to be. So it means that we need to take out the idle time. So idle time adjustment on labor cost. And don't forget the formula that we use there. The same formula that I introduced to you. This is it. Hours multiplied by rate per hour, 100% minus the idle time percentage, so that we can get the real cost, the gross cost. But we are told that they work 30 minutes, so we need to convert 30 minutes to an hour before we can multiply by the rate per hour, which is 12.6 divided by adjustment for idle time. It is 10%, so here will be 0.90, right? It is 100 minus that, so 0.90 or 90%, whichever way you put it. Now, if I do this, how much am I going to get? That gives me 7.0 0. So I've taken care of this one too. Okay. Then it says that production overheads, another one. So in a question, whatever you are given, you have to deal with it one by one. All right. So this is what we have. Production overheads. Recent historic cost analysis has revealed the following. You see, they've not separated it between the what do we call it? The fixed and the variable. But this is what we have. Total production for month 1, month 2, and the cost is this. The total, this is the cost and this is the labor hours. Fixed production overheads are absorbed, so absorption, remember, are absorbed on the assembly hour basis of the normal annual activity. In a typical year, 240 assembly hours will be worked by Sheila Limited. So it means that what did we say we will use to do the separation? The high-low method, right? So we are looking at production overheads. High-low method. So the high is 720,000 cedis. All right. With the hours, so this is the total cost in cedis, and this is the hours. We have 23,000 with it. Then we have this is 700, and we have 620 with 19,000. Let's do the subtraction. This is 80,000, and this is 4,000. High-low method, after doing this, you divide, right, to get your variable cost. So variable cost per unit will be the difference. So we have 80,000 cedis divided by 4,000 hours. So the variable cost is, that is 20 cedis per hour. So basically that is that. So if I pick any of them, I will know total cost. So we said total cost is equal to fixed cost, total fixed cost will be equal to total cost minus into bracket variable cost per unit multiplied by level of activity. All right, so if I look here, for example, I can pick 700,000 minus into bracket 20 per hour variable cost multiplied by 23,000 hours. So if I do 23,000 hours multiplied by 20, that gives me 460. So I have 700 minus 460,000. So 460,000 minus 700, that gives me 240,000. I think, yeah. So we even have an idea where it is. Total fixed cost, 240,000. So here we go. So you have this. So you can now do your fixed cost out. You have your total cost, you have your fixed cost. And now the next thing that we have used the high-low method to ascertain that. So what will be our variable cost and what will be our total cost? So if I take variable cost is, so it said in a typical year, 240 assembly hours. Okay, so this is 240,000, and you have 240 assembly hours. So variable cost, which move with production, right? Variable cost always move with production. So variable cost, which move with production, is going to be based on the number of production that is going to happen. All right, so that by so the variable cost is 20 cedis per hour multiply by what is the level? What do we need? I think we saw it here. We did it. Yeah. So the hours is it's in minutes rather, because we are told, where is it? Yeah, it takes 30 minutes to assemble a radio. Oh no. Okay. So that gives us 30 minutes. We need to convert it to an hour. All right. That gives us 10 in terms of what we are doing. So we found our variable here. And when we multiply, it gives us 10. So where is our, so let me put it here, 10. Variable overheads. Then fixed overheads, we know we had 240, but we are told that, so in a typical year, it takes 240,000 hours. And so what we are going to do is that what we are doing is monthly. Don't forget that it's a month thing. So 240,000 divided by 12. How much will we get for a month? All right. So that would be 240 divided by 12. That gives 20,000 hours. All right. So the 20,000 hours that we have here, if we go by it with 30 over 60, 30 minutes, 60, like 30, we want it in hour, right? So basically that is that. 30 over 64 per hour, because fixed is an amount straightforward for that. So when I do that, it is 20 and half of it is like that one is so how much is that? So I have in here 240,000 hours divided by 20. That is 20. So I have 20. No, this give me 20,000. Yeah, 20,000. So what I have here is 240 by 12 first. That is the 20,000 hours that I have. So the 20,000 hours that I have in here, how much does it price in terms of fixed cost? So in terms of fixed cost, as you can see, fixed cost is fixed. Is that not it? So the fixed cost that we have is it 240? So let me do it like this. If you do it this, you can get 20,000. Then you divide it by your 240,000. So let's go that. We have is 240,000 cedis. Yes, and 20,000. That gives 12. So let me do it this way. So this is the monthly, okay, the month one. And we had 20,000. So let me just put it like this. So it will be 240 Ghana cedis. Let's write it like 240,000. This fixed cost, the total fixed cost for 20,000 multiplied by my 30 over 60. All right. These are what I'm using. So this one should give me 12. So 240, 12. 20 is 12 here. Yeah. By 30, 60. That will be half of that. That is 6. So that is that. If I now add everything together, 6, 10, 7, 8, 4. So let's go like this. 4.7 plus 0.13 plus 8.1 plus 7. Variable cost 10 plus 6. That gives me 35.93. That is my internal expected current cost, 35.93. So if I now come here and slot this one, and slot this 35.93 here, 35.93 here, you could see clearly that there will be a gap between what the market expects and what we are going to do. So if you check, minus 35.2 will give a 0.73 gap. So that is the gap. All right. So basically, that is that. How can we reduce this gap? It means we need to find a way of reducing this cost. So you can do sensitivity analysis where you can say that if we pick component 1, you can say 0.73 of 4.1, what we are buying from the customers by 100%. Let's see, 0.73 over 41, 4.1, sorry. That gives a 17%. So it means that if we can negotiate a discount, 17.8%, that's like 18%. If we can negotiate a discount of this, we can meet our target cost of this. All right, you can pick any of them. So the delivery cost, you can say, oh, you negotiate a delivery cost of 5. Anything you can do to reduce the cost. All right, so reduce this to negotiate to get it, or push to reduce your idle time. Okay, so all those things are things that you can say. So basically, this is it for target costing. Very easy, right? All right. So we've not had a past question yet, but because it is very short and it is mixed with other things. So the next thing you see in the part 4 of this video will be us dealing with life cycle costing. All right. Then after all these things, we move to budget. Is that okay? So basically.